And we're live. Hey everybody, how you doing? It's your man James, Mr. Sequential Treasures, back again with some more live stream action for you. Today's stream is a little something different. It's not the usual thing. I don't have any art or anything or any comics to unbox for you. I don't. This isn't a sequential thinking piece. It's not even a comic book review. So what is this? Well, some of you may or may not know, this day is kind of a special one for me because it was 35 years ago this day that I became the comic geek that you see before you now. That's when the transformation took hold. And I just realized that today was the actual 35th anniversary of that, and it's like I thought I should commemorate it somehow. I should take note of that. And so that's what this live stream is going to be about. I'm going to talk a little bit about my love of the comics, how I got into them. I've done that story before, but I'll do it for you guys here, and just kind of give you a little bit of a little background on yours truly, which is not the norm for me. On this channel, I tend to try to promote other people and other things, that are not about me. I've never been a very narcissistic type of person who wanted to make everything about themselves. So. This is definitely outside the norm for me, but again, this is kind of a special day, a special occasion. 35 years. When you've been involved in something for literally 3/4 of your life, as I have been. I think that's something we should, always maybe stop and take note of. So that's what we're going to do here today. So I want to thank you all for joining me today, and we'll get right into it. Now, like I said, some of you may have heard this story because I did it on a comic art convo over there on the Presti, but I'm going to refresh anybody here who doesn't know. And, when I first got into comics, it wasn't really about the comics so much because, I was never like one of these kids. I'm sure you heard stories from some people saying when they were like real little, they picked up the first comic and just fell in love. It wasn't like that for me. It was a much longer process. It took a lot longer to get there. And, actually, the way it begins isn't even with comics themselves. I got a little something right here. I'm going to get up from my seat here in a minute so I can show it to you. But it is something on the larger size. Just kind of get it ready here. And here we go. This is my Amazing Spider-Man blanket. This is the blanket that I got when I was, about 4 years old. This is the oldest comic-related item I own. I saved it more than once from the Goodwill when my mother tried to give it away on multiple occasions, giving away my stuff. Thanks, Mom. But that's, you can see it's a little worn, a little thin, but then after 45 years, what do you expect? But that's where it all began, was with that. That and this next thing here I'm going to share with you. As I share the screen, my Spider-Man blanket and this. This is the commercial for this item, and I think you're really going to enjoy it.
This is the Hulk. You can place the Hulk into the rage cage. With a few pumps of the Hulk inflator, you can make the Hulk grow in size. Rip out of the shirt. And break out of the rage cage. The Hulk comes completely shown. Some assembly required from Fun Stuff.
And that was it, folks. My Spider-Man blanket and my Incredible Hulk and the Rage Cage toy. That's where my first introductions to comics came from. I didn't even know that there were comic books at the time. Like I said, I was 4 years old. I didn't know comic books from a hole in the wall at that point. But those are my introductions. I got the blanket because I don't know. I just love that blanket, and then the Hulk toy because at the time I did watch the Bill Bixby show. Even as young as I was, I always liked the Hulk TV series. So that's why I wanted the toy, and that's what I got. So that's where it begins. But I didn't know until a few years later about comics, and that's where I'm gonna share with you here is the beginning of comics wasn't exactly 35 years ago. It was even longer than that. But again, like I said, my process took quite a while to reach the brain, you could say. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the comics. This was the very first comic that I ever read. This is Savage She-Hulk #2 from 1980. I remember this was 1980 because I was in first grade. I was about 6 years old. It was the winter of 1980. I remember because it was cold when I saw this, and this kid had brought this into school, and he let me check it out before class, and then I had to quickly stuff it away before the teacher saw it, because otherwise she'd, of course, at the time teachers, they'd take that stuff away from you. So I hid it, and I forgot about it. And as we're getting ready to leave class, he actually tapped me on the shoulder. He goes, "Hey, my comic." I'm like, "Oh, sorry," and I had to give it back to him. I almost left with it because I'd hidden it away when the teacher came in. But this was my very first exposure to comic books, which kind of makes it kind of one of the reasons I was a little annoyed at what they did with that new She-Hulk television series by those feminist harpies that basically destroyed the character, all to vent their psychic sludge. They should have been talking to a therapist instead of using this character, but whatever. But this was my introduction. Look, it's a great cover by the late great John Buscema. Just a classic image, and this is where it first started. But it still didn't hit me yet. Even though I had read this issue and I thought it was cool and all that. And again, She-Hulk, I read it because, oh, it's a Hulk, but it's a woman, but the Hulk is a guy, so because I knew the Hulk from the TV series. And so this is why I checked it out. But again, it didn't register. I still didn't have the love of comics yet. So then we flash forward a few years, and then I get this. Now, this is one of those giant treasury-sized edition comics. This is G.I. Joe, which I think reprinted the first 2 or 3 issues from the Marvel series. It started in 82. This came out in 83, this Treasury edition. And again, I got it, again, I pestered my parents when I saw it. "Oh, you got to get that for me. You got to get that for me." But it wasn't because of love of comics. It's because I had seen the original 5-part G.I. Joe cartoon miniseries back in 1983. And I just, G.I. Joe was just the bomb. And so it's G.I. Joe, so I've got to have it. So let that be a lesson to everybody: is never underestimate good cross marketing, because it will get people to pick stuff up they won't normally pick up. It certainly did with me. But again, I didn't pick this up because I love comics, and it didn't make me a big comic fan after I had read it. It was just, it's G.I. Joe. So that's why I got it. So then we go ahead, a couple more years, and now we're to 1985, and I got this. This is Transformers #9. Great cover. Here, art by Mike Manley, who we know would later go on to go do things like Darkhawk and Batman and things like that. I believe this is one of, if not his very first work. And I got this at Kmart. I'm sure some of you guys out there might remember the old 3-pack of comics that they used to have at places like Kmart. Well, we were in the store and we're walking by this aisle, and I saw the Transformers. Again, this is 1985. Transformers is the bomb, folks. Every kid, if you were a kid of the 80s, you loved Transformers. And we saw these 2 3-packs. One that had issues 7, 8, and 9, and the other had 10, 11, and 12. And my mother agreed to buy one for me and my brother. So I got one and he got the other. He got the one with 10, 11, and 12, and I got the one with 7, 8, and 9. But he had issue 10, which was the introduction of the Devastator character, and I loved Devastator. So I said, I got to trade you for that one. And so I ended up trading him my issue 8 with the Dinobots to get issue 10 with Devastator. But again, didn't get these because it was a love of comics. It was a love of the property or franchise they were attached to. It's Transformers, it's the 80s. You're a kid in the 80s. You love Transformers. So of course I got these. But again, still didn't quite have the love yet. And we go ahead another year. Now this is 1986, and this is in the summer of 86. I remember it because my father had a van at the time. And one day he loaded us all up in the van, and he said, "We're going to take a trip down the highway and just kind of see America, And so we got in, and, we lived in, Delco County, Pennsylvania, right near the border of Delaware. And so we just got on I-95 and we started heading down. And we got down to around the border of Virginia, and my dad said, we've driven far enough. Let's head on back. Just made kind of a day trip out of it. But on the way back, when we turned around, we made a stop at this rest stop. And in this rest stop was something I had never seen before. It was vending machines with comic books in them. I mean, I know some of you probably have heard stories, and you wonder if that was actually real. No, trust me, it was real. I saw it with my own eyes in 1986. And so, again, being so unique, I had to get something, and so did my brother. He was with us, and so my parents each got us one. He got an Aquaman issue from a mini series they did back in early '86. So this is like a few, this book would have been like a few months old. He got an issue of this Aquaman series where Aquaman wears the blue camo underwater suit. And of course, when I saw it, because you can only get the ones in the front, it pushes them forward, and you got to see what's in the front to see what you're going to get. And of course, I had to get Star Wars. What kid didn't love Star Wars in the 80s? So once again, the franchise, it pushed me. Oh, I got to get it. It's Star Wars. So this is the one I got, Star Wars 101, with this Bill Sienkiewicz cover of Han Solo blasting at a bunch of guys charging him, and I just love the copy on the front here. They outnumber Han 30-1. Boy, are they in trouble. The frivolities of youth, back when you could believe such stuff. But again, even with this, I still didn't have the love of comics yet. So you've seen all the ones so far, and pretty much all of them have been tied into other things. G.I. Joe, Transformers, Star Wars are connected to something else I love, which is the reason I got the comic, but I didn't get the comic for the comic's sake. And we got some comments here from Marcus Killigrew. Yes. In '85, I was 11, so I was the perfect age to love Transformers. Yeah, I think a lot of us had that issue. Funny enough, though, it's one of the final issues of the series back when no one was really reading it, so it's got like low distribution. So if you can find a really high quality copy of that book today, that book is actually worth some money now. That's kind of funny. Back at the day, they didn't even care because the distribution was so low. No one was reading at the time. And now it's a big money book. Oh, you're only a year younger than Aaron Lepresti. Well, I guess it's about to change because I know your birthday is coming up here, Marcus. See, I remembered. Your birthday is coming up, so you're going to be Aaron's age in years come tomorrow. And then a few months later, he'll be older than you again. So it won't last for very long. Oh, wow. I got Star Wars 1 off the spinner rack in Jersey. Wow. That would have been awesome to grab something like that off the rack. But getting back to things here, again, so the love isn't really come in yet for comics itself. So now you got to go forward a little more. Now it's October 28th of 1987. And I'm in freshman year of high school. I'm 9th grade. And my best friend was in the class with me. We hadn't been in a class together for like 2 or 3 years. And him and this other kid that he had met the year before were in the class with me. And this other kid who was a friend of his was a big-time comic reader, got my friend into comics. But this guy was a Marvel guy, and my friend was more of a DC guy. So they didn't really kind of like the same comics, but they did like comics together. And one day, again, October 28th, 1987, at lunch, we're sitting at our table. And this kid from another class comes on over, sits down with us, and he starts trading comics with this kid, Eric, my friend's other friend. He's trading with Eric. And, remember, you did that when you were kids. You trade comics because you couldn't buy everything. You didn't have the money for that. So you had to trade with friends so you could, get to read more stuff. And in the course of the trade, Eric got this book. DC Comics Presents number 69 featuring Superman and Blackhawk. Great Irv Novick and Dick Giordano cover here. I just love that image. The ghostly head of Albert Einstein in the background. Nice touch. He got this book in the trade with the kid that he was trading with. And remember what I said, Eric is a Marvel guy, so he's not really big on DC. And so he had the book, and he looked over at me, who was sitting like right next to him, and he goes, yeah, I'm not really much of a Superman fan. Here, do you want this? And he just gave it to me for free. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Because, hey, you're a kid. Who doesn't love free stuff? So I took it. And then I went home that night, and I read it. And, I couldn't tell you what it was about the book that got me. But after I read this, I was just blown away. My head, boo. Oh, man, I was blown away. I was like, this stuff is awesome. You know, I knew Superman from the movies and like cartoon series like Super Friends, but, you know, I never read superhero comics with him in it, you know? And so this was like a, wow, it just blew me away. And so the next day, I went into school and found that kid he was trading with. And I said, hey, do you have any more of those trading comics? And he's like, yeah, I got some stuff for trade. Why? Do you want to trade me some? And I said, no. And I dug in my pocket and I pulled out like the $2 or $3 I had for lunch money. I said, but could I buy some from you? And, you know, his eyes kind of lit up because, you know, money, that's like pure gold right there. And he's like, yeah, sure, come on over. And so this next bit of comics you're going to see, these are the ones I picked out myself for the first time on my own, buying my own comics. And first off was, well, it's not going to be much of a surprise, I'm sure, The Amazing Spider-Man 260. You know, you saw I had my Spider-Man blanket. You know, I've seen the cartoon, so I knew who Spider-Man was. And this image of the Hobgoblin punching him through a window as they're come crashing through, and Harry Osborn's ducking for cover. This book made me not just a Friends and DeFalco fan, but a Hobgoblin fan for life. I loved the character. I mean, I've always loved the Hobgoblin. He's one of my favorite villains of all time. And this book just is burned into my memory. You know, I remember certain scenes that happen in the issue. You know, like there's a scene where they're fighting in Osborn Towers and they come through this boardroom and Spider-Man kicks the Hobgoblin into a chandelier and then they come swinging back through and the people are still in the room and they're just kind of like crawling out from under desks and Spider-Man's busting his wisecracks out and goes, what? You people are still here? Sheesh. Doesn't anyone know how to flee a room and panic anymore? It's just the quintessential Spider-Man line, you know, it's just how he is. And of course, my favorite scene of the whole thing is they continue the fight and they end up in the women's bathroom. And Spider-Man knocks the Hobgoblin in one of the stalls and he goes, don't laugh at me, Spider-Man. I know you're smirking beneath that mask. And then from off camera, you know, Spider-Man goes, who, me? Perish forbid, you know, and just making all kinds of wisecracks. So he pulls out a pumpkin bomb and he webs it through his hand. And the Hobgoblin has to stick his hand in the toilet to put it out to him so he don't lose his hand. I mean, just hilarious scene, but yet so, you know, so awesome. And, you know, like I said, it made me a DeFalco and Friends fan for life, a Hobgoblin fan for life. This issue was the bomb diggity, let me tell you. And then, of course, again, no surprise, Incredible Hulk 309. Of course, again, I've known the Hulk since I was, you know, the little kid, you know, back 4 years old watching the TV series, you know. So I knew the Hulk. Oh, the Hulk. I know the Hulk. Got to get the Hulk. Little did I realize this issue was the last issue done by Sal Buscema in his 10-year run on the book. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. I didn't even know who Sal Buscema was, but this was one of the issues I just loved, like the brightness of the cover, the yellow and white background being cast against these characters, just like it like throws them right in your face. Great Mike Mignola cover, excellent stuff. And I also got this one, Incredible Hulk 315 from John Byrne's ill-fated short run on the book right before he left Marvel to go over to DC. And again, that classic image of the Hulk splitting and showing Bruce Banner screaming is just, Bruce Banner free at last. Oh, I gotta read this. You know, that was the whole premise of this whole TV series. He's trying to find a cure for himself. So it's like, wow, does he get cured here? Is this where it finally happens? I had to know. So I got that. And then the last one I got was this one, Strange Tales Volume 2, number 11, with Cloak and Dagger and Doctor Strange. And I got it because it was interesting to me in the split screen effect to show both stories that are in the book. I'd never seen anything like that before on any comic I'd ever seen. It was always just one big blasting image, on the cover. Here it's split screen, and it was kind of interesting. Great cover work by Kevin Nolan. And interesting side note, this issue is also the very first published work by artist Dan Lawless. He did the Cloak and Dagger story in here. This is where Dan got his start. And, this is 87 when I got this. I started working with Dan Lawless myself, selling his art for him in 2017, 30 years later. So just kind of interesting how that came about. One of the first issues I bought on my own is also an issue that was the first work of a guy I would end up working with 30 years later. Again, it shows you how big this has been for me, working, being a comic fan, what this 35 years has been. So those are the beginnings, folks. That's where everything begins. It all begins with these comics, and it all begins with the blanket and the Hulk toy. So it's, you can see it was a longer road for me than dang porn bots. Okay, that took care of them. Let's see. Oh, more here from Marcus. DeFalco was really good with Spidey Wi-Fi. Yeah, he was. He really was. I always enjoyed his trash talking whenever Spider-Man, was in it. Just some of the best one-liners, the best quips. That's what I always missed. That's what I thought was when I saw the Raimi films. I thought the first two were excellent, but the second one was just a little better because they actually squeezed in some of his humor. You heard Spider-Man making some wisecracks in Spider-Man 2 that you didn't see in the first movie. And so that's why I always think that's always the superior film to me is Spider-Man 2, simply because they made sure to include some of those classic Spidey one-liners. Yeah, so I think again, just all great stuff. And yeah, Lawless. Yeah, like I said, his work, that's where he got his start, was in Strange Tales. Yes. So like I said, it was a real big treat for me when I actually got to work with Dan. It's like, what? Wait a minute, this is one of the guys who I first saw his first work when I first got into comics. Seriously. And it's like, so that was a big deal for me. I was really excited about that. And over the years, I've had lots of interesting things, funny things, going to shows and being parts of shows, and just lots of great stuff that's come along the way. And that's why it kind of bothers me so much that the creators and the people in charge now have such a negative view of the fandom and the people who pay the bills, because it hurts to love something so much as I do comics and not feel any reciprocation of any kind coming the other way, and and like I said, 35 years. I mean, like I said, I've 3/4 of my life up to this point. That's a long time. And, it hasn't always been fun, but like I said, it's given me so much. I've, became a minor letter hack in the 90s. If you might have saw some of those great classic letters of mine in Marvel, DC, and some other places, cross-gen. And, I worked at shops, multiple shops on both coasts, west and east coast of the country. So I've been in that arena. Like I said, currently I sell art online for several artists. Again, one of them who again was right there at the beginning of my love of comics. It's given me so many, and even my wife. I met my wife through comics. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. Is I just got my computer back in October of '96, my very first computer. It was a 386. Still had dial-up internet. Remember that? Dialing up to get on AOL. And I remember I got on specifically because I knew that if I did, I could interact with creators online. I mean, that was the whole thing for me. That was the whole reason I got online in the first place. I want to talk to the creators. I want to talk to the people who do the books. That was my big thing for getting online. And if anyone was still around at the time, you remember AOL when DC was on AOL. They had the chat rooms, the little message forums, and they had the chat room where they would host events. And one of the events they hosted at the time was a John Byrne Wonder Woman chat every month, because John Byrne was the one working on Wonder Woman at the time. And that's where I met the wife. She was in that chat one time. She had just gotten her computer in December, and she came on. And I think, it was only like a week or so after she had her computer, we were in there talking, with the Wonder Woman, with John Byrne and stuff. And I remember they were talking about the character of Champion, and because there was this whole mystery of who is Champion, what's his deal. And she brought up an interesting idea. She's Steve Trevor. And that kind of blew me up. Like, I never would have suspected that. And so I told her, I said, that'd be an interesting twist. And we just started talking after that. And then a few weeks later, it was my birthday, and she emailed me on my birthday to wish me a happy birthday. Some guy she only met a few weeks ago in a comic book chat room, and yet she's telling me happy birthday. And from there, things just grew. We kept talking. We eventually sent each other our pictures through the mail, and people always ask me, how do you know she was the one? And I'm like, well, because I sent her my photograph and she still talked to me after she got it. That's how I knew. And they think it's a joke, but really it's only like half joking, folks. It's, I really was surprised she still kept talking after that. But then I flew out and met her, and it just, in one of those rare moments of your life when you have an epiphany where everything just becomes crystal clear to you, it came clear to me that she was the one. It's like, I have to be with this person. And then, I went back home, finished out what I needed to for a couple months, and then came back out, and I moved in with her. And then 3 years later, we were married. And it's been, it was 22 years this past July. So, comics have given me so much, years of entertainment, a voice in the letters page, employment, my wife, they've given me so much in this 35 years. And, this is part of why I wanted to commemorate this, because I feel it's important that, that you take stock of such things. And, what's this? Marcus Killian wasn't champion Hercules. Yes, that's who it ended up being. It was Hercules in disguise. Yes, that's who ultimately ended up being. But yeah. See, there it is. See, the wife. She's the Wonder Woman lover of the family. I mean, she was reading comics even long before I was. Even before my first comic, She-Hulk, she was reading comics. So, and yes, there she is. She's admitting that Bill Byrne was throwing out some red herrings try to keep us off the track. But yeah, like I said, so it's been 3.5 decades. I guess I just when I sit back and think about it, it still just stymies me that I'm here, and like I said, and doing things like I do, the live stream I do every month with Aaron Lopresti. If you'd have told me back in 92, 93 while I'm reading comics and I'm reading Aaron's work, hey, and in about 30 years, you're going to be, doing computer, live streams with this guy talking about comics and comic art. I'd have laughed at you. I'd be like, get out of here. He's not going to do that with me. He's a big professional. I'm a nobody. He's not going to do that. And yet, look at where we are. So it's just funny to see how life throws these curveballs at you. If you would have told me any of this back, if you would have told 13-year-old me, back in October 28th of 1987, that, all this is going to lead to you selling art for original art for artists on the computer, and you're going to find your wife on a computer because of comics, and you're going to, be doing live streams and little like almost like TV shows with creators. I'd have laughed at you. I just said you're crazy. I just said you're talking nonsense. But here we are. I mean, And like I said, with this channel, I've really tried so hard not to make it about myself, because like I said, I'm not a narcissistic person. I've never been the kind of guy who craved fame or popularity. So so this today is kind of a little bit outside the norm for me. To actually talk about myself more and my feelings on things of personal of my life. So it's like I said, it's something special. That's why I felt it was important to note this date today, 35 years later, seeing how far things have come. Like I said, it's so much what I have is due to comics. And, even though they aren't giving the love back to me that maybe they used to, I still have to acknowledge what they've given me. And, yes, this is the other thing people do. I think you should write a comic. Yes. I've had people ask me multiple times already, when's your crowdfunder, James? When are you going to put out a comic? Yeah. I know. I don't know. It's a tough thing. I mean, do I have ideas? Certainly. I got ideas probably out the wazoo for what I could do for a story. But would anybody be interested? Would anyone buy it? Who's going to draw it? It's not going to be me. I can't draw. I'm lucky to draw straight stick figures. That's not going to happen. Oh, look at that! His ears were burning. I mentioned the devil's name, and now he appears. It's Dan Lawless. Everybody, say hello to our own Dan Lawless. Yeah, maybe Hey, maybe that's it. Maybe I should ask Dan to draw the comic I want to write. Maybe we should do that. Just let me try to find a few, a few spare $1,000 just sitting around doing nothing that I happen to not have, and pay Dan to do that. We'll do that. How's that sound, folks? Does that work for you, Marcus? I'm back working with my writer, but I'm not sure he's interested in crowdfunding. Well, that's the future, my friend. I mean, I don't see anything, where crowdfunding is not going to be the future of this hobby. I really don't. So you need to talk to your friend there and say, hey, guy, we got to do this. It's the wave of the future. Even more so than what I had. So like I said, when I said if I look back at this and say, if you told 13-year-old me I'd be doing all this stuff with comics, working with, selling for artists and working in shops and, doing live streams with creators. If you'd have told me any of that stuff, I would have laughed at you, because, you just didn't have that kind of access. You didn't have that kind of opportunities, back when I was young, that you do today. But today, my friend, oh my God, the sky is open. I mean, you have direct connection to the buyers, to your audience. And, that's something that we've never had before. And so Marcus, you definitely need to talk to your writer and convince him and say, look, man, this is the way to go. We got Tarks9 showing up. Hail Tarks9. Yes. So, I'd say, Marcus, just talk to your writer and just convince him. I mean, show him the success so many others have had already. It's crazy that he would think that's not something that would interest him. I mean, yeah, maybe you won't hit it out the park and get $1 million or 3.8 million like Eric July did. That might not happen, but if you get your first crowdfund to do $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 on your first go around, that should be incentive enough to go, hey, this is worthwhile. But it is going to be a lot of work. That's the other thing about it is, me doing this is like, it's already hard enough me trying to make time for doing live streams for like sequential thinking. And then, when I get the art in, trying to make sure I get everything set up to do one of those. And, so, I mean, already doing all that is hard enough. But then if I was actually doing a book on my own, if I was writing some comic and someone was going to draw it for me, then, I'm going to have to be doing even more of this stuff. And it's like, man, it's hard trying to squeeze it in now sometimes, but that's the key to it all is promotion. You got to keep pushing yourself out there. You got to keep people's name in your mouth. And then the only way to do that is to get out. Yeah, exactly. See, yes, you're right. Time is a problem. That is the one key of all of it is time. There's only so many hours in a day and only so many days in a week. Aaron Lepresti's talked about this himself. He said, like right now he's doing, a bit of streaming because, he's in the early stages of the book and it just went into in demand. But now he's at the point where like now he needs to get to work on the book, which means what? I'm not going to have as much time for streaming. So what's going to happen on the crowdfunder? Well, it's going to be, not driving the sales like it was over the past few weeks when he was campaigning. It's going to be a much more slow burn. And so, if you haven't made enough early on, that can be a problem. And so you see, that's the thing. It's that balance that you need to strike between, promotion and the actual work itself. But I do feel that this is the future, my friend. So, definitely talk to your guy and say, yeah, man, we really need to consider this. And, like I said, I'm even considering it, for the first time ever, No, that's not it. Wait, there it is. Yes, Dan, she is my better half. I've told people this many times. She is literally my better half. Like whenever you're involved with something with us, you want to deal with her because she's the nice one. See, the way I've always viewed it is I'm not really that nice of a guy. I mean, I can choke it back when I have to, but I don't like doing that. So what I do is say, I'll let her deal with it. And that's sort of like me. That is me being nice. I'm letting you deal with my nice side right now. This is my nice side over here you're dealing with. If you spurn her and then I have to get involved, well, see, now I'm just going to be completely without mercy because I'm like, well, you already threw off my nice side. So you deserve what you get. So, yes, she truly is my better half. Yes, it is. You know, and no matter what you do, whether you're well, I mean, probably more so if you're drawing it, because that's definitely going to take a lot more time. But even writing itself, it's time intensive. You got to, think about what you're doing and create this stuff and come up with ideas and get it down. And, oh, I got to rewrite this, and you got to check spelling and check all your pronunciation. I mean, you got so much, even in writing it is just labor intensive. And then on top of that, now with crowdfunding, you have to promote it too. You got to get out there on streams. You got to get out there and talk to people and push it out there in their face and let people know you exist. Like I say, it's a lot of work, and it will be. But again, looking at what some people have done, the rewards are definitely there. Not only in owning the creation yourself, because it'll be your creation rather than you working on a publisher's IPs that they own, and which you get nothing for other than your paycheck for doing the job they hire you to do. You not only get that reward, but then you get the reward of all profits made from that book is yours. It belongs to you because it's your creation and you put it out there and you've done it and you've promoted it and you did all that work. And so all the rewards go to you rather than to a faceless corporation or a bunch of high mucky muck executives. Oh, well, that's even better than Marcus. That makes it even easier for you guys. Because if you already have the work done, if you've done some stories and you just never published them, collect them in a book and then put that book out there, and just crowdfund it. And all you got to do, you don't even have to worry about like, oh, I got to write the story or, oh, I got to draw the book. And you ain't got to worry about any of that. It's all done now. That makes it even easier, man. If you have work already on the burner ready to go, just get it out there, man. Do it. I mean, I don't know what your writer's thinking if you got work already, completed. Yeah, I think most husbands are evil compared to their wives most of the time. Most of the time. There are exceptions, Nancy Pelosi, I think, is more evil than her husband. But but yes, I think most times people would say the husband is more evil than the wife. Yeah, I know. See, this is something Dan has said, folks. He said this to me and to others on streams. That, this is part of what he loves about this modern era that we're in of connectivity. He goes, back in the day, like I said, back when I first read Dan's first work back in '87, he didn't have this. He didn't have where he could interact with people who had read his work and say, hey, Dan, I really love what you did on Cloak and Dagger. He didn't have any of that. He got, maybe a word from the writer, maybe a word from the editor. And then if he bothered, if he got any comped copies, maybe he could look in the back of the letters page and maybe there are people talking about his art there. And then maybe if somebody saw him at a show, that's about it. It would be very, very, sporadic interactions that way for artists and creators to really know what people are thinking of the work and stuff. And so, Dan is absolutely correct here, that is one of the biggest changes that we've seen. So, and again, that's why I think it's the way of the future, because, now fans, feel they can feel the love even more so now than they did then, if the creators are willing to show it, whereas before it was just the work is all you had to go by. And that's what you loved. I love that work. And so you just assumed that the work reflected the person, which wasn't always the case. But now you can directly interact with the person. And now it can be the other way around, where maybe you see, wow, this is a really great guy. Hey, I should support his work. And so when he puts something out there, now you want to support it because, hey, he's a great guy. He talked with me. He gave me pointers on stuff. He told me some inside baseball stories. I love that stuff. With all that connectivity, you now can kind of inverse the way it used to be, which was the work made you like the creator. And now the creator can actually make you like the work. And I think that's a better way to go, because then you're supporting not just a product or a company, you're supporting a person. And I think that personal touch of that is much more of an incentive for people to back things than just saying, well, I just like the work, I just like the character, I just like the IP. Because that's what we're seeing now. That's why the mainstream is failing so badly. They've damaged their IPs so badly with people who are doing work that either aren't good or who actually actively hate the audience and the creations, and they want to destroy them. And that's what they're doing. And it doesn't matter however much you love Spider-Man, however much you love Batman, it doesn't matter in the end, because if they're going to produce crap work that doesn't reflect what the character's about and what the audience loves about him, and then go on and insult your audience when they don't like it, when that's what you do, it doesn't matter how great, the work is. These people have turned you away from wanting to support that. Whereas in the inverse, if you're a great guy like Dan Lawless is, you're out there doing streams with guys like Gabriel Eltiabe and, John Malin and all these other people, and you're out there making people laugh, and they're getting to know you, and they see that you're a great person and you got some great insights about life and art and whatever. And then you go and put a work out there. People are like, hey, that's Dan Lawless. Oh, I should support Dan. Dan's a great guy. Yeah, let's give him some support. And then, they get the work. And of course, you want to put out your best work. You don't want to put out something that is mediocre or bad, but you put out good work. And then now they're like, oh, wow, this guy really has talent. And I think that's a better way to go about things than we've done originally, which we could kind of what put us where we are now with the mainstream. Creating comics was super lonely. Yes, that's what I'm saying, Dan. It used to be that way. You're in your little workspace. Your artist room or your writer's room, and you're just sitting there working. Like I said, aside from maybe a phone call from your editor, you really didn't hear too much unless you went to a show. Maybe some fan said something to you. Maybe you've read the letters page in the book if you got some copies, and that's about all your interaction was. And today it's completely different. This CG is so much fun. I'm now friends with Andy and Dennis and have met Fraga, Tucci, and Rini. It reminds me of when we were going to cons. And yeah, see, exactly. See, that's almost what it's like. It's like you've taken the con experience and you've moved it into a space where anybody can go. Because, again, not to belittle people or anything, but there are some people who just can't get around like they want to. People who are handicapped in some way, or maybe who are, handicapped financially, and they can't afford to go to shows. And they would love to interact with the pros and interact with the creators, but they can't because they don't have the money or they don't have the physical mobility to get out and do it. And now with this, they can. Again, like I said, this is a game changer in everything. It's the biggest gain, I think, and also I guess you could say the biggest loss. It's kind of 50-50 because again, you get the access now that you could never have before, but then in getting that access, you learn things you may not like to learn. Again, we've seen some of these creators and what they've said to people. I love Jerry Conway's Spider-Man work in the 80s. I mean, that was him and David Michelini. They were the Spider-Man writers for me. I love that run in the late 80s. But I've seen Jerry Conway online and see what he's said about people and certain groups of people, and he insulted manga fans, and when they called him out for it, he doubled down and said they were incels like to beat off to drawing of oversexed preteen girls. I mean, why would you do that? You're Jerry Conway. You wrote The Death of Gwen Stacy and the Green Goblin. You wrote fantastic runs on books like the Justice League and Spider-Man. Why would you want to trash? You co-created The Punisher and Power Girl. Why would you want to tarnish that legacy? Why would you want to throw that all away to be a douche? It doesn't make sense, but that's the downside to all this access, is you're seeing them as they really are, not as the idealized version you had in your head based off of the work you read. And that's the double-edged sword of this. But I think there are enough now who are business savvy enough who understand, I can't let my personal predilections so overwhelm what I'm trying to present to the people, especially when I'm asking them to give me money. I'm asking them to buy my work to support my projects. And that's not the way to go. I mean, Jerry Conway, maybe he does it because he's old and he knows his prime is past and he's going to be dead soon, so it doesn't matter to him, I guess. Why you'd want to ruin your legacy? I mean, if I had the legacy hit, I wouldn't want to throw that in the garbage, but I guess he doesn't care. But for a lot of guys, there are a lot of guys who got, they still have time in. They got a good 20, 30, maybe even 40 years. They could be creating stuff, and they're doing the same thing Jerry Conway is doing. It's like, but you guys aren't at the end of your career. You're at the beginning or the middle. and you're destroying your industry, you're destroying everything around you. You're ruining the stuff people love. And for what? When you could do like guys like a Dan Lawless here, and just interact with people, and do fun things, do stuff that make them excited for the work. When Dan does I love Dan on the Players Club with Gabe Abe and Aaron Lopresti and Gary Martin. Those guys, they're hilarious. It's like the Four Stooges. They're just, I love it. It's a great show, and I love watching that show, and because they're so personable. And they don't attack people. They don't go out and try to go after people who they don't like just because they don't like them. They may make some comments about topical stuff maybe, but they never really go after people. They never say that if you don't agree with us, you're a istophobe. They don't do that stuff. And because they understand, something that I think a lot of people didn't understand earlier is that part of the brand is your name. In this industry, in comics, your name is part of the brand, and how people feel about you will affect how they're going to support you. If you make them feel like they matter to you, and you make them feel that that you want to create great work, and that you want to have fun, and you want people to enjoy themselves and create good quality entertainment, they'll support that out the wazoo. But if they get the reverse feeling of that you feel entitled to their money, or that you feel entitled to their support, or that well, you're just a bigot, I don't care, shut up and go away, they will. Again, we've seen it in the mainstream. That's what's happening now. People have walked away, and they're paying the price for it because they didn't think that their name and their brand was part of the name. Their name was part of the brand. They didn't think about that, and now they're stuck because these creators who spent the last several years attacking the reader base, who are they going to go to support them on crowdfunders when the corporations finally shut down the comic book production lines? Who are they going to go to? They're going to go to manga. They're not going to. Manga doesn't want them. They know how woke these people are. They don't want them. They're looking at that and going, "You've ruined your own properties. We're not going to let you into ours and ruin ours with that nonsense." So they're not going to go there. They're not going to get any of that. Where are they going to go? Crowdfunding? You burned the bridge with how many people, calling them bigots and Nazis and racists and every dirty name in the book? They're not going to support you. Where are you going to go? And it's because you had no foresight in thinking, putting myself out there as a person, my name is part of the brand. And that's something I think a lot of them missed the boat on early on. And, they're now starting to see what it's like. There you are, Marcus. He nails it right there. You're like a patron to the artists of the past. Yes, you're literally a patron of the arts. Yes, you are. That's exactly what the backers are. They are the patrons who are making all this possible. These books we've seen from John Malin and Aaron Lopresti and Billy Tucci and Graham Nolan and all the rest. They wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for us. Don't get me wrong, it's their creation. They had the idea and they made it manifest. But without us backing it, there would be none of those books out there. There would be no Shanu. There would be no Wraith of God. There would be no Graveyard Shift without us. And see, again, that's what they've learned. See, they've learned that matters. We need to make the backers and the buyers happy. And so that's what you do. Let's see. Yes, Dan, I did like the vampire shtick you did this week for Halloween. That was a nice touch. Considering the next Players Club won't be until after Halloween, that was a nice touch. Yes, we all liked your vampire shtick. Well, again, see, that's why this is great that it's online, Marcus, is because if you can't finish watching it, stop it, and then you can come back, the next day and finish watching it later. It's still going to, provided, unless, YouTube or whoever the gods of the platform are, decide they want to just delete people for no apparent reason, which, we know can happen. As long as that doesn't happen, it'll be there. You can always check it out later. Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Unless you were independently wealthy, Dan. If you were independently wealthy, well, then maybe it's not so much working without a net because you already have your personal net of your independent wealth. But short of that, yes, it is. It is very much performing without a net because it's all on you. There's no one. And you know what the thing is? There's no one else you can blame. You can't say, well, it was the publisher. You're the publisher. Well, it was the shipper. Well, no, you're the shipper. Well, it was the printer. Well, but you chose the printer. It's all on you now. So there is no scapegoats to run to as people have in the past, when things don't go right. But again, these are all things I've learned, from my 35 years in this industry. Even around the fringes that I've been. Like I said, I've been a reader, I've been a letter hack, I've been a manager at shops, and now I sell original art online. So I've been on the fringes. I've never actually made the comics. It's the one thing I haven't done, but I've been around the fringes for so long. I've picked up stuff and I've learned things from all this, and again, this is how I've learned that crowdfunding is the future because it's got to be. The old model isn't going to work anymore. It sucks, and it sucks because part of that was me. I always wanted to have my own comic shop. That was my dream, to have my own comic book shop. And because of both economic forces, again, as well as the creators who have burned so many people, who used to be regulars and regular buyers of comics, that's no longer a viable option for me. They kind of help destroy that dream. That's part of the reason I have such disdain for those types of creators, because they've ruined my dream of having my own comic book shop someday. And I can't forgive them for that. You crush someone's dream because of your politics or because you want to own somebody on the internet or whatever your reason is. When you crush someone else's dream that way, you can't just walk away from that and go, oh well, that's okay. No, it's not okay. But again, these are things you learn as you go along. And like I said, people like Dan have probably watched all this and he's learned this stuff. That's why Dan is so savvy with how he handles his stuff online, is because he doesn't want to alienate people. He doesn't want to drive away any potential buyers or any potential audience. He wants as many people to come in as possible. Which is how I've always approached the selling of the comic art. I've always, as Dan can no doubt tell you, when they send me stuff, we always talk about it. We talk about prices, and I do my due diligence and research and everything, give them information, and then we try to find prices that we feel are fair, both to them for the work they had to put in, but as well as to the buyers. Because you don't want to price yourself out of a market. That would be stupid as well. So you gotta have a fine-tuned touch and try to find again, it's all about balance. And that's what we do, because I want as large a pool of buyers as possible. And so I have stuff priced to the stratosphere. Well, it's going to be a very small pool to work from. And if they don't like my artist's work or they don't think it's worth that money, they're not going to buy it. And then what good is it? It's just images sitting on a computer screen. You want it to move. And to do that, sometimes you got to tailor your expectations. That's how I would, tailoring your expectations. And that's what we try to do. So I can try to cast as wide a net as possible. So, we have stuff that's like, yeah, it's expensive because it just, some stuff just is. But then we also have stuff that's much more, economic minded. It may not be Spider-Man or Batman, but hey, if you like Dan's work, I got pages of Dan's work you can get for like, $40 or $50. It's not going to break your bank. And you could have a nice piece of artwork by Dan Lawless. You see, and that's how I've always approached it, the way of getting as many people as possible. Because again, in this specific space, I've seen, prices are just crazy. What some of these dealers and other people ask for stuff that they have, and they can do what they want. Possession is 9/10 of the law. You can do what you want when it's yours and it's in your possession. But I just look at them like, why? If you want to jack it up that much to like 3, 4, 5 times fair market value, why are you selling it? Because you obviously don't really want to sell it. Otherwise you wouldn't price it that way. And if you don't want to sell it, why are you selling it? And if you do want to sell it, why are you being so stupid about how you price it? If you overpaid somebody to get it, well, that's on you. You don't pass that on to other people and say, well, now you have to pay so much more so I can make a profit. You need to be smarter about how you do business. Be kind to everyone, I say. Good Christianity is good business. Well, yeah, Provide you're not like ramming, religion down someone's throat. Yes, I completely agree with that. The feeling of trying to keep, as you put it, a kindness to people is definitely good business. I mean, don't get me wrong. If someone, is going to be a problem for me in business, I mean, I'll have no problem saying so. But I don't go out of my way to alienate people. Just like Dan does, and just like so many other creators who have been successful in the crowdfunding have done. They are smart enough to know I don't want to alienate people because that just costs me money. And that's, and judging them incorrectly too. See, that's even the worst part. I mean, judging I can even almost understand, because we all judge people to one degree or another. We all judge everything. Every decision you make is a judgment. But they're judging people incorrectly, calling them things that they are not, simply because they don't agree with them on a political issue or on a social issue, or because they think their work sucked because of the way they approach the character. And they think, well, that means that I can call you whatever I want to call. You're only saying that because I'm a woman, so you're a sexist. Oh, you're only saying that because I'm African American. You're a racist. That's just, no. You don't judge people like that. That's stupid. That's bad business. As they're learning, as they're seeing now, it's crazy, but that's how it is. But like I said, I've learned a lot in the 35 years I've been involved in this stuff, and the one thing I've learned above all else is something my father always taught me since I was knee high to him. One of the things he taught me was don't shit where you eat, which I think is a lesson that many in the comic book industry either haven't learned or still have yet to learn. Yeah, Dan is. Yeah, they do. They do. They put a premium on their own opinions as being superior to everybody else's, I think, and that's where you run into the problem. If you're not even willing to think or admit to the fact that you could be wrong, or there's even a possibility that you're wrong, then you're doomed. You're doomed to well, as they say, pride goes before the fall. So there it is. I mean, I'm always right, but I always keep open to the fact I could be wrong someday. It's possible. So as long as I do that, I know I'm okay. Even though the wife will still never listen to me, no matter how right I am. But as I'm sure Dan knows, that's just marriage. That's how it goes. It's wifely prerogative. It's the wife's prerogative to ignore your great sense. Yeah. Oh wow, I've been at this almost an hour. I can't believe it. Didn't think I'd be going on this long. But yeah, I just want to do a little something here to shout out my my little anniversary here of sorts. Again, 35 years. I mean, how many people have stuck with comics for 3.5 decades like that? Probably not that many. Certainly not those who are or at least working in them. And even some of them didn't stick with it for 35 years. So yeah, it's kind of a big deal, I think. Like I said, it's just something I wanted to note. It's just something I thought was important to note today. That this is where it all kind of began for me. Yes, it doesn't take much, Marcus. It doesn't take much. But I do want to thank all you guys for joining me today. I hope maybe you learned a little something about me from all this. Maybe you learned a few other little tidbits of wisdom that I've picked up in 35 years of being a comic book geek. And of course, as always, before I go, I have to do my usual bit of shill for everybody here. So, and I'll do it today in reverse order. So normally what I do is I promote things I'm more associated with, but today, well, we'll start off with Aaron Lopresti's Wraith of God Blood Hunters, which just went into demand a few days ago. You can see he actually made the 120,000 mark, so we did break that. Thank you, folks. We did it. And but it's still open right now in demand. You can go ahead and back it. Go ahead and do it now, because if you do, again, I want to This is a great book. It's looking great. It's a 100-page epic now. There's going to be 100 pages of story. It's going to be incredible. And one of those stories is a Garbage Man story with colors by our own Dan Lawless. Man, look at that boot. Is that not the finest boot you have ever seen? But yes, there is a Garbage Man story with colors by Dan Lawless. So, go ahead and back that. Help Aaron and Dan out there. But that's not all. Dan Lawless, he is our social butterfly here at Sequential Treasures. So he's not only doing a story for Aaron Lopresti's book, but he's also done a couple covers for Andy Smith's book, Kordrath, The Reckoning, which you can see right here is it's got 960 backers and 14 days left on the campaign. So personally, folks, if you want to help me out, spread the word on this. Let's get Andy to 1,000 backers. We can do that. We can get this book there to 1,000 backers before the campaign ends. We got 2 weeks. But again, the Dan Lawless connection here is here's cover A with colors by Dan on Andy's pencils and inks. Pretty awesome right there. But if that's not your speed, he also has the variant cover by the great Bud Root of Cavewoman fame, also colored by our own Dan Lawless. So we got double covers colored by our own Dan Lawless. So go ahead and head on over and back Kordrath today. Like I said, let's help Andy make 1,000 backers before the campaign ends in 2 weeks. We can do that. We can make that happen. That's not impossible. Help make those dreams come true. And let's see. All right, and let's see here. Trying to keep up on everything. Now we get to share my stuff. So if you want to help out this channel, well, you can of course like and subscribe on this channel. Please do. And if you got any comments, please throw them down there in the comment section. I always like to hear what folks have to say. But if you want to, you can also help out. And of course, the best way to help out is to head on over to our art gallery here, where we have all the great art for sale. You can see here's some great stuff from Dan Lawless. That great Dan Lawless trading card art in full color of Gen 13's Fairchild and Burnout. Here's Dan's work on Cloak and Dagger right here, #1, great page. And plus lots of other great art here. We got stuff from Richard Moore, Mike Harris, Mark Sandroni, Terry Shoemaker, Bob Smith. I mean, just tons of great art. It's about 1,100 pieces up right now, folks. It's just shy of that. So there's lots to look at. And as you can see, again, looking at the prices, yeah, we got the expensive stuff, but then we got stuff that's not so expensive. It's much more reasonable. It's much more affordable. So, and just so you guys know, I wasn't lying when I said that I have stuff by Dan that's much more inexpensive. We go here to the Shadow Masters miniseries. And I can show you right here. See, look at there, $35 for a page of original art by Dan Lawless. Come on, $40. So much great stuff. It doesn't have to break your bank. So the best way you can help us out is to head on over here to the gallery and buy some art. Christmas is coming up, folks. You got Christmas coming up, and you definitely don't want to miss out on Christmas. And I've always told people this: comic art is a excellent Christmas present because it's unique and one of a kind. There's only one that exists. It's something that shows a person you put thought into not only the gift itself, but to them, because you know that if you're getting them comic art, you know they love comics. That's something you would definitely want to help them do. And you can go ahead and help us out that way. But of course, again, if money is tight, and I do understand it is the Joe Biden economy we're in now. So I understand that money might not be plentiful, but something else you can do if you want to help us out, and it costs you nothing. It's to join our MeWe group over here with this great Dan Lawless image of Cable versus Wolverine. Right here is our header. You can't miss us. I do a bit here every week called Comic Art Wednesday. Almost every Wednesday, I post a new piece of artwork. This past month, I've been trying to theme them towards Halloween. This one was from a book called Gone South in 2003, done by Mark Sandroni, featuring female vampires, which, of course, you know, it wouldn't be Halloween without female vampires. And, of course, any new works come out. We got a couple books came out here from Archie Comics from Bob Smith. You can see him right here. This is from the more modern Archie stuff that they're doing. They've been doing since 2015. And then, of course, there's classic Archie stuff. So plenty of stuff to check out there. Like I said, all stuff I see, any new art that comes available, any special appearances by the artist, anything of note, this is the first place you'll find it. So if you're on MeWe, come over and join our group here. It's called Sequential Treasures. And if you're not on MeWe, come on and join MeWe, and then join our group, because I always like having a lot of people around to know what's going on. And last, but certainly not least, I have to note this one today of all days, is after you've liked and subscribed to my channel, head on over and like and subscribe to Aaron Lopresti's channel, because this is Aaron's channel where he does all kinds of cool stuff. He does a weekly show with his wife on Sundays. He does the professionals rotation with several other creators. He does unboxing videos, and of course, the Comic Art Convo with yours truly, which we do once a month. Although this month we're doing two, because both Aaron and I are such huge horror fans. We love this time of year, so we couldn't squeeze all our love into one single show. So we did a show 2 weeks ago, which featured our favorite comic book villains, which you can see it right here. It's right here on the front of his page. And the next one is tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. I just got a note from Aaron right before I did this live stream. He emailed me to say that we're going to be doing it at 5:30 p.m. because of his football game schedule. So, you know, Aaron and his football. I've said it before about you sports guys. You sports nuts are all nuts, but that's the way it is. We're going to be doing it at 5:30 tomorrow night. And it's going to be an awesome one. It's one I've been looking forward to for months. It's going to be our favorite B horror movies. So you know it's going to be a lot of fun. Me and Aaron talking low budget horror. If that's not a good time, I don't know what is. So after you subscribe to my channel, head on over here to Aaron's channel and subscribe to his. He's already up over 2,200 subscribers. Let's see if we can get him to 2,500. Let's get him to there. We can do that. That's not that many. And again, all that stuff is linked down below. You can check it all out. Nancy, years of schooling to color that boot. Yes, it certainly shows. It certainly shows, Dan. It certainly shows. And oh, what's this? Oh, my Private American cover just came out. Oh, so I guess Dan is doing a variant cover for the new Mike Baron book, Private American. Nice. Nice. Then here, Marcus, I backed cover A. Is that cover A for Aaron's book, Wraith of God, or is it cover A for Cordrath? I mean, either or would be good, you know. Well, I can't say for sure. I've never met Bud Root, but I do like his artwork. So, you know, I actually own a piece of original art by Bud. So, you know, and yeah, it wasn't cheap. Bud is not a guy you get if you're a pauper. Trust me. Oh, man, that would be crazy. that would probably be the most craziest show in the history of shows. Oh, my God. Of course you're in, Dan. You're the social butterfly around here. You're everywhere. Whose shows aren't you on except your own? Oh man. Thanks, dear. Thanks for creating more work for me. I don't have enough as it is. Let's just keep making more. Let's line up shows with people you haven't done shows with before. All right, good idea. Excellent. Excellent. I can't wait. It should be fun. But no, again, I want to thank all you for joining me. As I said, all the links for all the stuff I just showed you is down below. Tomorrow night, 5:30 p.m. on Aaron Lopresti's channel. The next Comic Art Convo is coming out. Our favorite B horror movies. It's going to be a blast. I want to thank all you guys for joining me today. I want to thank you guys in the chat for helping keeping it fun. And like I said, it's been 35 years. Here's to another 35, I guess. If I live that long, I don't know. I don't know if I want to live that long or not. But if I do, so be it. 70 years in the comics. Onward. I want to thank you guys for joining me again. Like, subscribe, share this out, and if you can, like I said, leave some comments down there. I'm always wanting to hear what people got to say, and I want to thank you all for joining me on this little impromptu celebration. And like I said, I'm working on a sequential thinking piece. I'll hopefully have that for you guys. Probably not this weekend because of Comic Art Convo, but hopefully next weekend I'll have that for you. And then after that, who knows? We'll have to see what prevails upon itself. But until tomorrow night at 5:30 on Aaron's channel, I will see you then. Take care.